Hello, this is Dr. Nazare coming to you again. I believe this is my 11th episode. I have not been able to check the comments and questions, but I'm actually going to do that today after this video. So I promise I will pay attention to that and begin to use a little bit of my time on future videos, answering some questions or clarifying some comments that you may have. So welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about something that is a recent kind of idea of mine, which is a question that came to my mind, and I'll explain in a minute how it came to my mind, just so you get to know me more and better. But it has to do with how do we repair old wounds, meaning wounds from relationship that have happened in the past, and that there's a certain tension or resentment or animosity or hesitation in relating to such person that has felt like they caused us injury, that we experience harm, that we experience pain. And I was thinking about this as a result of the fact that I'm currently going through a difficulty with my oldest daughter. And she had the idea of maybe going to therapy, something we did a long time ago when she was a teenager. And it was successful back then. It wasn't very long-lived. But she suggested that now, as a result of difficulties that we're having, whereby this part of mine that I've been sharing with you, the part of mine that has had difficulty seeing when somebody's not treating me right, as a result of early development, and difficulty setting limits and saying no when somebody's not treating me right, that part of me had been enacted with this daughter of mine. And so things were not well, and I was beginning to be able to say, no, this isn't right, and I don't want it this way. So it created this tension, this new type of tension. And she suggested going to therapy, which is a great thing in general. And I thought, well, I don't know that I want to go to therapy because I don't know that I know what she's upset about. I think the first order of business to repair is to actually have an opportunity, or give the person an opportunity to tell them what it is that you're unhappy about, what it is that has injured you, what it is that you have resentment about or difficulty with. So I want to recommend to everybody who has anybody that they're unhappy with that matters to them. Of course, my daughter matters very much to me, like a husband or a best friend or a partner. That when you have an injury and you are affected by it to this day, it's happened in the past, let's say, and you're still affected, that the first order of business is, of course, to try and talk to that person. So talk to that person by telling them, listen, there's something that has happened between us, and I'm still affected by it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be bringing it up. I'm still affected by it, and I would like to tell you and talk to you about it. So the first order of business for repair is to go to that person, but don't go angry, because that puts people off, and it makes people get self-protective, which is, by the way, when we feel self-protective, the other person experiences as defensive. So this is an additional piece that I can offer you today. When somebody says so-and-so was defensive, I want you to know that the person who's actually acting defensive, according to you, is actually feeling self-protective. So very different experience for the phenomenology of the person who's being seen as defensive versus the person that is experiencing it. So the first thing is to go and to try and share the upset and the anger with someone else, so that you can vent out excessive energy before you go talk to the person that you want to do a repair with. So that's number one. So in this case, with this daughter of mine that I love dearly and I'm having this difficulty with, when she suggested that we do therapy, I was hesitant rather than happy, because I realized I haven't had such a conversation. I don't know what she's angry with me about. So that caused me to think, if we go to therapy, I would need to know what it is she wants from it. And then it caused me to think, how do you repair all pains? So I began to consider, what would I have wanted from my parents, who both of them injured me quite a bit to the point of trauma. We're all injured by our parents because, as I've said before, we're so dependent for so many years that there is no human being that escapes childhood without some injury. Trauma is obviously a bigger deal, and consistent trauma is, of course, a bigger problem. But injured is all of us. So I thought, what would I have wanted from my parents if I had the opportunity to repair? And I am going to share with you this very brand new understanding in my mind of what I would have wanted from my parents, and realize, listen, there's 3 steps. Number 1, of course, is to try with the person to tell them whatever has affected you in a constructive way, meaning you don't say you say this affected me this way. When this happened, this is what happened to me. When you did this, this is how I felt. So a lot of self language, not you did this and you did that. And definitely to not come to the person with the state of anger, but to come to the person with a kind of an open heart and a goodwill and a desire to repair things. So when I thought about what would I have wanted from my mother and my father, I realized it's identical with both. And I came to this. The first thing I would want is to tell them about events that hurt me, things that happened between me and my mother, let's say, or me and my father, that really caused me a lot of pain, a lot of distress, and sometimes absolute overwhelm. And some of these things are affecting me to this day. So I would want to talk to them and tell them that these events happened, that they were engaging in this or that behavior, that they were either doing something to me that was hurtful, or they were neglectful. They were not doing enough for me, and that was hurtful. So the first order would be, tell the person what event, and don't tell all the events. That's overwhelming for every human being. You go and you pick one item. Preferably you pick the item that's most important or most injured you, and that you are having difficulty with it to this day. So you pick the item and you tell the parent, when you did this or when you didn't do this, this is how I felt and this is the pain I experienced. As you're telling this, you may get teary. You may cry. You may begin to have difficulty talking if it's very raw pain. But to tell the parent what it is and what does the parent need to do. By the way, the parent represents anybody who's going to be offering repair. Okay? It could be your friend, it could be your boyfriend, whatever. But what you need from the other person as a result of this thinking is that the other person show absolute curiosity, the person who's going to offer the repair. Curiosity for what happened to you. So real interest, real presence. And that when they hear how that pained you, whether it made you sad, it made you feel like you're no good, it made you feel like you're not important, whatever it may be, it made you feel overwhelmed, it made you feel like you're worthless, whatever it might have happened, that the person who caused that, who had contributed to that feeling, would be curious and regretful. So the person who's repairing would need to offer regret, such as, oh my God, I am so sorry you felt this way. I so regret that I acted this way or that I didn't act this way, and to show real empathy for the suffering of that human being who's asking for repair. So that's step number 1, to be clear and concise and pick one item, the person who's wanting the repair, and for the person who's repairing to show genuine curiosity and interest, and to experience and show remorse and regret over what happened. Step 1. Step 2. If it's somebody that you still have relationship with, both my parents are dead. My father died when I was only 27, so a long time ago. My mother died, actually, she was really incredible genetics, and she died when she was almost 99. But I never had a repair from either one of my parents. God, I wish I had, but I didn't. So the second piece is, if the parents are alive, or it's your boyfriend, or it's your best friend, or it's your husband, or your wife, that may be behavior they are still engaging in. It may be part of their automatic. So the second part would be to tell them, listen, this that you did back then, you still do at times, because it may be part of their automatic. So then the second part would be to ask them, when you do it in the present, like from now that you understand what happened to me, and you care and show regret for my injury, Mom, Dad, my dear husband, you still do this at times, and it still injures me. So you would ask them to have a plan that when they do that again, that you would have this agreement, that you would be able to say, this is happening again, and now you know what it is because you've talked about it. And could you please retract that or change your behavior? So in my case, for example, my mother left me alone many, many times, and often left me, even when I would go back to visit in Spain and I was an adult, young adult, she would leave the house without even telling me she was leaving. And because she had abandoned me and left me alone so many, many, many times when I was growing up, and it's a big trauma of mine, when she would do that, it would really make me feel overwhelmed, sad, and powerless. Powerless because she didn't tell me. So if it were my mother today and I could tell her, I'd say, Mom, when you leave the house or when you're planning to leave, could you please tell me ahead of time? This would be my request. Now, my mother may automatically have this habit of leaving without telling. So I would agree with her, I would make an agreement with her or ask for an agreement that when she does do it, I would tell her, Mom, it's happening. And what I would need to repair is for the person to tell me, I'm sorry, I'm not going to leave, or I'm sorry I did it, and I'm going to be more careful next time. That's step 2. So step 2 is, what could this behavior of the past, how could it be active in the present? And to have an agreement with that person, the repairing person would agree that if I do it, I will backtrack or I will apologize and correct. Step 2. Step 3, as I was thinking of what if I had the delight, the amazing experience of being able to ask this of my parents. And my parents were actually psychologically understanding, available, and able to repair, which is the 3 steps that I'm telling you now. The third step would be that I would want to ask this person, again, whether it would be my father, my mother, or whoever it is for you, that I would want to know what was happening to you. What was going on in your life that you acted this way? Because when I think of what was injurious to me for my mother and my father, to be honest, it's hard for me to understand how they did this to a child. It seems very insensitive. It seems cruel at times. It seems like kind of incredible that they would do some of the things they did. So I really don't understand it. And part of the lack of integration, say for me, or whoever is looking at repair, is that I don't really understand how come they did these things or didn't do these things that really injure me. So the third piece would be to ask of the person that injured you, what was happening to you when this event happened, this kind of thing, what was going on in your mind and in your life, because I would want to understand what was their life, what was their phenomenology, so that I would understand how come they acted this way or lacked certain actions toward me. So that's what I came to as a result. I really have to thank my daughter, because her coming to me and asking for therapy and the fact that she hasn't come to me to tell me directly what the problem is made me hesitate, which is, you think if I'm a therapist, I'm not going to hesitate. But I hesitated because I realized the first step is missing. The first step is try to tell the person constructively, without blaming, without anger, what hurt you. But then I went to think, well, what would I want? What would I want this daughter of mine to be wanting from the repair? And all that a human being can offer, this would be the ultimate repair. This would be the most holy of holies repairs, is that the person is able to do these 3 steps. So to recount. Step number 1, try talking to the person in a way that's not blaming, that's not making the person bad, that tells your experience. If that hasn't worked, by all means, try to go to a therapist. Make sure you're going to a very sophisticated therapist with a lot of education and experience, because doing couples therapy and doing family therapy is actually much, much harder than individual therapy. So you really need somebody who has a lot of expertise. I will talk another day about how to find a good therapist, but for now, just to tell you, make sure you find somebody that's quite able. And don't assume that everybody can do that, because not everybody can do that. So if you go to therapy, then be asking for these 3 items. Say that you want to tell this person very clearly what happened, and non-blaming and non-accusatory, but the impact on you, and that you are going to know that this is repairing because they show you genuine interest in your experience, genuine regret, and genuine sadness or grief over your suffering. Then make sure that you are prepared to ask that person how this happens in the present, that you make an agreement. You could even come up with a word. Sometimes in different situations with patients, I give them, or I actually ask them to come up with a word. Like for me, it's Snoopy. So if something goes wrong and I say Snoopy, so then my partner knows that something's happening, to kind of recognize that this is something that needs to be attended. And then you ask them that this behavior that has been going on for years, if it's happening again, that they would retract or correct. And that's the second piece. And the last piece that I would want for anybody who's wanting repair from someone else is that you, now that you have had repair for your pain, curiosity, and care, would have the ability, the psychologically developmental ability to be curious about this other human being and what was going on in their life. See, when you do that, you're recognizing the other human being has a life of their own, has injuries of their own, has difficulties of their own. And when you actually care to ask the other what was happening, you're immediately making that person equal to you. You're recognizing the person may have done things that are harmful without any volition, without any desire to harm, but that the circumstances of their life, their psychology, limited them and caused them to cause you harm. So these are the 3 items of how you know that you've had proper repair. These are the 3 things that I would recommend that you seek when you're looking for repair. And don't forget that the first thing you need to do is try and talk to the person in a non-confrontational, non-accusatory way. But if not, and even if you do that, by the way, if you do it on your own, you still want to have these 3 pieces. Okay, once again, if you want to hear and see other videos of mine, I recommend that you subscribe, because then you'll get a notification that there's a new one. If you like it, do that little bell. And I promise you that today, right after I finish this video, I will look at some of your comments and questions so that I can begin to, at the beginning of my next video, attend to some of those questions or clarify some of your, whatever you need clarification or additional questions that you have for me. Thank you as always for watching. I hope this was really helpful or somewhat helpful or enjoyable. And have a wonderful afternoon, and I'll see you soon. Bye.